Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This is Daily Cup English, the podcast where you can relax, listen, and improve your English a little bit every day. I'm Liam.
And I'm Chloe. Hello, everyone. We're really happy you're here with us today.
Yeah, seriously. Whether you are listening in the morning with coffee, on the bus, or maybe while taking a walk, thanks for spending a few minutes with us.
Exactly. We like to think of this podcast as a small daily habit, just like drinking a cup of coffee or tea, but for your English. A little bit every day can make a big difference.
That's right. And before we start today's conversation, just a quick reminder. If you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to follow or subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our new episodes.
Yes, we post new podcast episodes every day. So if you follow the channel, you'll always have something new to listen to and practice your English with.
And if this podcast helps you relax or understand English better, you can also share it with a friend who is learning English.
That would make us very happy.
All right, Chloe, let's talk about today's topic. I think this is something almost every English learner struggles with.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Today we're talking about how to train your ear to understand fast English.
Ah, yes, fast English. The thing that scares many English learners.
Yeah, I've heard this so many times from people learning English. They say something like, I studied English for years. I understand my teacher, I understand the textbook, but when native speakers talk, I understand nothing.
Yes, I hear that all the time too.
And honestly, I understand why. Because in real life, people don't speak slowly like teachers in a classroom.
Exactly. Real conversations are faster, more relaxed, and sometimes a little messy.
That's a good way to say it. Messy English.
But don't worry, everyone. In today's episode, we're going to talk about why fast English feels so difficult and also share some simple ideas to help you train your ears.
Nothing too complicated, just real advice and experiences.
And of course, a friendly conversation so you can practice listening to natural English.
Exactly. So, Chloe, let's start with the big question.
All right.
Why does fast English feel so difficult for so many learners?
Well, I think almost every English learner has the same experience at some point.
Yeah?
Everyone has the same experience at some point.
Yeah?
They study English in school for years. They learn grammar, vocabulary, maybe they pass some exams.
Right.
But then one day they talk to a native speaker, and suddenly they feel like they forgot all their English.
Yes, I've heard people say that many times.
They say something like, wait, I know this language, why can't I understand it?
Exactly. And one sentence I hear very often is this. I can understand English, but only when people speak slowly.
Yes, that sentence is very common.
And the moment someone speaks at normal speed, the brain just goes, wait, what?
Totally.
Actually, one of my friends told me something funny about this.
Oh, really? What happened?
So he was learning English for a few years, and he felt pretty confident. He could watch English lessons online, and he understood most of them.
That sounds good.
Yeah, but then he visited the United States for the first time.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, his first real conversation was in a coffee shop.
Oh no, I already know where this story is going.
Yeah, the barista asked him a simple question. Hey, what can I get for you?
That's a very normal question.
Right, but my friend told me it sounded like this to him. Hey, what can I get you?
Yes, exactly.
He said he just froze and thought, what language is this?
Poor guy.
He told me later, Liam, I studied English for 3 years, but that sentence felt like a train going past my head.
That's actually a great description. Fast English really does feel like a train sometimes.
Yeah, everything moves so quickly that your brain can't catch the words.
And another problem is this. Many learners try to understand every single word.
That's a very good point.
When someone speaks fast, the brain tries to listen for each word, but by the time you understand the first word, the speaker is already on the fifth word.
Exactly, so the brain falls behind.
Yes, and then people start to panic. And when you panic, listening becomes even harder. Right. Suddenly, your mind is thinking things like, oh no, I didn't understand. Oh no, what did they say?
Meanwhile, the conversation is still moving forward.
Exactly.
And this doesn't only happen with beginners,
True, even intermediate learners experience this.
especially when two native speakers talk to each other.
Oh yes, that's the real challenge.
Because when native speakers talk together, they don't slow down.
Not at all.
They interrupt each other, they laugh, they shorten words.
And sometimes they even mumble a little.
Yeah, we do that a lot, actually.
We really do.
So listeners might feel like the conversation is just a blur of sounds.
But the important thing to remember is this. This problem is completely normal.
Yes, absolutely normal.
It doesn't mean your English is bad.
It just means your ears are not used to the speed yet.
Exactly. Listening to fast English is a skill, and skills can be trained.
That's a great point.
Your ears need practice, just like you're speaking or reading.
And the good news is there are simple ways to train your ears.
Yes, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
We'll share some ideas, some habits, and also some funny experiences from our own lives.
Because honestly, even native speakers sometimes struggle to understand fast speech.
Oh yes, especially with different accents.
That's a whole different story.
We might talk about that later.
Definitely.
All right, so now that we understand the problem, the big question is this.
How can English learners train their ears to understand fast English?
Let's talk about that next. All right, Chloe, so let's talk about the big mystery. Why does English sound so fast?
Yeah, this is a really important question because sometimes English isn't actually that fast.
Many
It just
learners think
sounds
native
fast.
speakers talk like race cars.
Yeah, like vroom vroom. English is speeding down the highway.
Exactly, but the real reason is a little different.
Right. The main reason is that native speakers usually don't pronounce every word clearly and separately.
Yes, that's the key point.
In many English classes, teachers say every word very clearly. For example, I am going to the store.
Right, very slow and clear.
But in real life, a native speaker might say something like, I'm going to go to the store.
And sometimes it sounds even faster than that.
Exactly. The words start to connect together.
This is something we call linking sounds.
Yes, linking means the words connect and flow together like one long sound.
Instead of many separate pieces.
Right.
Let's try a simple example. A very common question. What are you doing?
In a textbook, you might hear, what are you doing?
Right, very slow and clear. But in real life, many people say something like, what you doing?
Exactly. What you doing?
And if someone learns English from books, they might hear that and think, wait, what is whatcha?
Yes, they might think it's a new word.
But it's really just, what are you?
Another example is, did you?
Ah, yes.
In many conversations, people say did you like this, did ya?
Right. For example, did you see that movie becomes, did you see that movie?
And when you hear it quickly, it can be confusing.
Especially if you're listening for every single word.
Exactly. That's why many learners feel like the words disappear.
They're not really disappearing, they're just changing shape a little.
That's a great way to say it. English in real life is a bit flexible.
Very flexible.
Another thing is that people also shorten words.
Yes, a very common one is going to.
Right. Many people say gonna.
So instead of, I am going to call you later, we might say, I'm gonna call you later.
And that sounds much faster.
Exactly. The same thing happens with want to.
Oh yeah, that becomes wanna.
For example, do you want to watch a movie becomes, do you want to watch a movie?
When many small changes like this happen in one sentence, the whole sentence suddenly feels very fast.
Yeah, it's like the words are sliding together.
That's actually a nice image.
But here's the important thing.
What's that?
Once your ears become familiar with these patterns, fast English starts to feel much easier.
That's absolutely true.
At first, it sounds like noise.
But later, your brain starts recognizing the patterns.
Exactly. Your brain begins to say, oh, I know this sound.
And suddenly, a sentence that felt impossible becomes easy.
But of course, that doesn't happen overnight.
No, it takes practice.
Which brings us to the next question.
How can people train their ears to recognize these sounds?
All right, Chloe, so if someone wants to understand fast English better, what's the first thing they should do?
Honestly, the most important thing is very simple.
Simple is good.
They need to listen to English every day.
Yep, that's probably the most powerful habit.
And the good news is, it doesn't have to be a long time.
Right.
Even 10 or 15 minutes a day can help your ears improve.
Consistency is the key.
Exactly. Listening once a week for 2 hours is not as helpful as listening a little bit every day.
It's like exercise.
Yes, that's a great comparison.
If you go to the gym once a month, you probably won't get stronger.
That's true.
But if you exercise a little bit every day, your body slowly gets stronger.
And listening works the same way for your ears.
Your brain slowly becomes more comfortable with the sounds of English.
Exactly.
So what kind of things should people listen to?
Well, podcasts are great.
I agree. Podcasts are perfect because you can listen anywhere.
While walking, cooking, cleaning, or commuting.
Or maybe while drinking your morning coffee.
Just like our listeners right now.
Exactly.
Another good option is watching YouTube videos in English.
Yes, especially videos with natural conversations.
Movies and TV shows can also help.
Although sometimes movies have very fast dialogue.
That's true. Maybe learners should start with podcasts or simple YouTube videos first.
Good idea. But here's something important.
What's that?
When you listen, don't worry about understanding every single word.
Yes, that's a big mistake many learners make.
They stop the audio again and again because they missed one word.
And then they feel frustrated.
Instead, it's better to focus on the general meaning. Try to understand the main idea.
Exactly.
It's like watching a movie in your own language.
Right.
Even in English, sometimes I miss a word in a movie,
Me too.
but I still understand the story.
Because your brain uses the context.
Exactly.
And the same thing will happen when you listen to English more often.
Your brain will start predicting what people might say.
Yes, and that makes fast speech much easier to follow.
So step 1 for training your ear is simple. Listen to English every day.
Even a short daily habit can make a big difference.
And the more you listen, the less scary fast English becomes.
Exactly.
All right, in the next part, we're going to talk about another very helpful trick.
Yes, something that helped me a lot when I was learning another language.
And it's surprisingly simple.
Stay with us.
All right, Chloe, so we talked about listening every day. That's the first big habit. But there's another trick that many learners forget.
Yes, and it's actually very simple.
What is it?
Repetition.
Ah, yes, listening to the same audio more than once.
Exactly. Many learners think they always need new content.
New podcasts, new videos, new lessons.
But sometimes the best thing you can do is listen to the same short piece again and again.
I agree with that. When you listen to something the first time, your brain is just trying to understand the general idea.
Right. You might catch a few words, maybe some phrases.
But when you listen the second time, something interesting happens.
Your brain already knows the topic.
Exactly. So now your ears can focus more on the sounds.
You might suddenly notice a word you missed before.
Or a sentence that sounded too fast the first time.
Yes, and sometimes you think, oh wow, how did I not hear that before?
That happens to me all the time.
Me too.
Even when I listen to podcasts in other languages.
Same here. The first time I listen, I understand maybe half.
And then the second time?
Suddenly, I understand much more.
Because your brain is becoming familiar with the sounds.
Exactly.
I once tried this experiment when I was learning Spanish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I listened to a short 3-minute podcast.
Okay.
The first time, I felt a little lost.
That's normal.
But I listened again and then again.
How many times?
Maybe 5 times.
Wow.
And by the 5th time, the audio suddenly felt slow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, my brain had already learned the rhythm of the speaker.
That's a great example of how repetition works.
And it doesn't have to be boring.
Right, the audio can be something interesting, like a story, a podcast, or a conversation.
Maybe even an episode of this podcast.
Exactly.
You can listen once today and maybe again tomorrow.
And each time your ears will catch new details.
Another good idea is to listen to short sections.
Yes, maybe 1 or 2 minutes.
Listen once for the main idea,
Then listen again and focus on the words.
and maybe one more time to hear the rhythm and pronunciation.
That's a great little practice routine.
And the best part is that it only takes a few minutes.
Exactly. Small habits can create big improvement.
So remember, repetition is your friend.
Don't be afraid to listen again.
Your ears are learning every time.
All right, Liam, now let's talk about another helpful idea for learners.
Yes, this one is very practical. Okay, Chloe, here's something I think many learners don't know.
What's that?
You don't have to start with full speed English.
Yes, that's a really important point.
Some learners feel like they must always listen to normal speed.
But that can be very difficult in the beginning,
Exactly. And when something feels too difficult, people often give up.
which we definitely don't want.
So here's a simple trick. Start slow, then go faster.
Many apps and video players have a speed control button.
Right. You might see options like 0.75 speed or 0.8 speed.
That means the audio plays a little slower than normal.
And that small change can make a big difference.
When the speech is a little slower, your brain has more time to process the sounds.
Exactly. It's like giving your brain breathing space.
That's a nice way to say it.
So maybe you listen to a podcast at 0.75 speed first.
You get comfortable with the conversation.
You understand the main ideas.
Then the next step is simple.
Increase the speed.
Yes, try normal speed after that.
And you might be surprised,
Why?
because sometimes normal speed suddenly feels much easier.
That's very true.
Your brain already knows the sounds and the context.
So it can follow the conversation more easily.
I actually used this trick when I was learning French.
Oh, really?
Yeah, French speakers can talk very quickly.
Yes, they can.
At first, I felt like they were speaking a completely different language.
That sounds familiar.
So I started listening to interviews at slower speed.
And did it help?
A lot. After a few weeks, normal speed didn't feel so scary anymore.
That's great.
It's a good reminder that learning a language is a process.
Exactly. You don't need to rush.
Step by step.
Slow first, fast later.
And eventually, fast English will feel normal.
Yes, it really will.
All right, in the next part, we're going to talk about something else that can really help your listening.
Something many learners don't practice enough.
Real conversations.
Those can be challenging, but also very helpful.
Let's talk about that next. All right, Chloe, let's talk about something very important for listening practice.
Yes, this one can make a big difference.
And that is learning with real conversations.
Exactly, because the truth is, English in real life is very different from English in textbooks.
Yeah, textbooks are usually very clean and clear.
Right, the speakers pronounce every word carefully.
Something like, hello, how are you today?
Yes, very slow and very perfect.
But when real people talk to each other, it's not like that.
Not at all.
People interrupt each other.
They laugh in the middle of sentences.
They shorten words.
And sometimes they even change their sentences while speaking.
Yeah, like starting one idea and suddenly switching to another.
Exactly. That's very normal in natural conversations.
So if learners only listen to textbook English, real conversations can feel shocking.
That's a good word for it. Shocking.
Yeah, I actually remember something like this happening to a friend of mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he had studied English in school for years.
Okay.
And he was pretty confident about his listening.
That sounds good so far.
Then, one day, he went to a small cafe in New York.
Ah, the famous cafe conversation again.
Exactly, but this time he was sitting near two American friends who were chatting.
Just a normal conversation.
Yeah, just two people talking about their weekend.
So what happened?
He told me later that he understood maybe 10% of the conversation.
Wow.
He said they spoke quickly, they laughed, they used slang, and sometimes they talked at the same time.
That happens a lot in casual conversations.
Yes, and he said it felt like listening to a completely different language.
I think many learners have experienced that.
But the good news is this: you can train your ears by listening to real conversations more often.
Exactly.
Podcasts like this one are a great example.
Because we're just talking naturally.
Right, we're not reading a script word by word,
We pause, we laugh, we change our sentences.
just like people do in daily life.
Another good idea is to watch interviews or casual YouTube videos.
Yes, especially videos where people are having a normal conversation.
At first, it might feel difficult.
But your ears will slowly get used to it.
Exactly. The more natural conversations you hear, the more familiar those patterns become.
And after some time, you'll start recognizing common phrases and rhythms.
Then, fast English won't feel so scary anymore.
Right, it will start to feel more normal.
And maybe even fun.
Yes, listening to real conversations can actually be very interesting.
Because you're hearing how people really communicate.
All right, now let's talk about another technique that can really help your listening.
Oh yes, this one is very powerful.
The technique we're talking about is called shadowing.
Shadowing is actually a very popular language learning method.
And it's surprisingly simple.
Yes, the basic idea is this. You listen and repeat at the same time.
Almost like you are the speaker's shadow.
Exactly. That's why it's called shadowing.
So imagine you're listening to a short sentence.
For example, I'm going to grab some coffee.
You listen to the sentence and immediately try to say it with the speaker.
Not after the speaker, but almost at the same time.
It might feel a little strange at first,
Yes, especially if the speaker is talking quickly.
but this technique trains both your ears and your mouth.
Your ears learn to recognize the sounds.
And your mouth learns the rhythm and pronunciation.
It's like your brain is connecting listening and speaking together.
Exactly.
When I was learning Japanese, I tried shadowing with short dialogues.
Did it help?
Yes, a lot actually.
What changed?
At first, the sentences felt very fast.
That's normal.
But after repeating them many times, the rhythm started to feel natural.
That's a great sign,
And interestingly, my listening improved too.
because your brain became familiar with the sounds.
Exactly.
Another nice thing about shadowing is that it can be fun.
Yes, it almost feels like acting.
You're copying the speaker's voice and rhythm.
Sometimes I even copy their emotion.
Really?
Yeah, if the speaker sounds excited, I try to sound excited too.
That's actually a great way to practice.
It helps you sound more natural.
And it also keeps practice interesting.
Exactly.
So if our listeners want to try shadowing, they can start with short sentences.
Maybe from a podcast, a YouTube video, or a movie scene.
Listen to the sentence and repeat it right away.
Don't worry if it's not perfect.
The goal is to follow the rhythm.
And over time, your ears will become faster,
Your brain will start recognizing words more quickly.
which makes fast English much easier to understand.
Exactly.
All right, Liam, we've talked about several helpful ideas so far.
Daily listening, repetition, slower speed, real conversations, and shadowing.
Yes, we covered quite a lot.
But there is one more thing that might be even more important than all of those.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Patience.
Exactly. Be patient with yourself.
Learning to understand fast English does not happen overnight.
Not at all.
Sometimes learners feel frustrated because they don't improve quickly.
Yes, they might think, I've been studying English for months. Why is fast English still so difficult?
That's a very common feeling.
But the truth is, listening skills take time to develop,
Your brain needs time to adjust to the sounds.
and it needs many hours of listening practice.
Exactly.
I like to compare it to learning music.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
If someone starts learning the piano today, they can't play a complicated song tomorrow.
Right. First they practice simple notes,
Then simple songs.
and slowly they improve.
Listening to fast English works the same way.
Step by step.
And learners should also remember something else.
What's that?
Even native speakers sometimes don't hear everything perfectly.
Oh yes, that's very true.
If someone is speaking very quickly, or if there is noise around, we can miss words too.
That happens to me in busy restaurants all the time.
Same here.
Someone says something and I'm like, sorry, could you say that again?
Exactly. We ask people to repeat things all the time.
So listeners shouldn't feel embarrassed if they don't catch everything.
Missing a word or two is completely normal.
The goal is not to understand every single word.
The goal is to understand the message.
Exactly.
And if learners keep practicing, their listening will improve little by little.
One day they'll suddenly notice something interesting.
What's that?
A conversation that once felt impossible suddenly feels easy.
That moment is always exciting.
Yeah, it feels like a small victory,
And those small victories build confidence.
which makes learning even more enjoyable.
So remember, everyone, progress takes time.
Be kind to yourself during the process.
Your ears are learning even when you don't notice it.
Exactly.
All right, Liam, I think this is a good moment to share a few personal stories.
Oh yes, stories about when we struggled to understand fast speech.
Because trust me, it happens to us too.
Definitely. All right, I'll start with a story from a few years ago.
Okay, let's hear it.
I was traveling in the UK, and one evening I met a group of people from Scotland.
I think I know where this story is going.
Yes, Scottish accents can be pretty strong.
Very strong sometimes.
So we were sitting in a small pub and chatting.
Sounds nice.
One of the guys started telling a story. He spoke quickly and had a thick Scottish accent.
Uh-oh.
And suddenly I realized something.
What?
I understood almost nothing he was saying.
Oh no!
I'm a native English speaker and I was completely lost.
That must have been surprising.
Very surprising. I just sat there smiling and nodding.
The classic smile and nod technique.
Exactly. I was like, yeah, haha.
Even though you didn't understand the story.
Not really. Maybe 10%.
That's hilarious.
Later, I asked another friend, what was that story about?
And?
He explained it to me slowly, and then I understood.
So even native speakers sometimes struggle with fast speech and accents.
Absolutely.
I actually had a similar experience once.
Really?
Yeah, but with an Australian podcast.
Oh, Australians can speak pretty fast too.
Yes, I was listening to this podcast while cleaning my apartment.
Okay.
And the hosts were talking and joking with each other.
Sounds fun.
But their accents and speed were very different from what I was used to.
So what happened?
At first, I felt confused. I thought, wait, did they just say that? I had to replay some parts to understand them.
That makes sense.
But after listening for a while, my ears slowly adapted.
That's the key.
By the end of the episode, their speech felt much easier to follow.
That's a perfect example of how the brain adjusts.
Exactly.
The more we hear different voices and accents, the more comfortable we become.
Which is why listening regularly is so important.
Yes, variety helps train your ears.
Different speakers, different speeds, different accents.
It might feel difficult at first, but it's great practice.
And honestly, those moments can be funny too.
Yeah, looking back at them always makes me laugh.
Same here.
All right, everyone. In the next part, we'll share a simple daily listening habit you can start right away.
Something easy that anyone can try.
And it only takes a little time each day.
Stay with us.
All right, Chloe. Before we finish today's episode, let's give our listeners a simple daily plan to help train their ears.
Yes, something easy that people can actually follow every day.
Exactly, because sometimes language advice sounds good, but it's hard to use in real life.
So we want to keep it simple.
All right,
Step 1 is very clear.
Listen to English every day.
Even if it's just 10 to 20 minutes.
Consistency is more important than long study sessions.
Right. Short and regular practice works much better.
Step 2 is something we talked about earlier.
Yes, listen again.
Repetition helps your brain notice more details.
The first time you listen for the main idea.
The second time you start hearing more words.
And the third time, the sentence might suddenly feel slower.
Exactly.
Step 3 is to listen to real conversations.
Not only textbook English.
Podcasts are great for that.
Casual YouTube videos too.
Or interviews and everyday conversations.
The more natural English you hear, the more familiar it becomes.
And step 4 is a bonus habit.
Shadowing.
Right. Repeat what you hear and copy the speaker's rhythm.
It's great for both listening and speaking.
So let's quickly review the plan.
Step 1. Listen every day.
Step 2, repeat the same audio.
Step 3. Practice with real conversations.
And step 4, try shadowing sometimes.
That's it. A very simple routine.
And if you follow this habit for a few weeks or months,
Your ears will definitely become stronger.
fast English will slowly feel more comfortable,
And listening will become less stressful.
maybe even enjoyable.
Yes, that's the goal.
Learning English should feel interesting, not scary.
Exactly.
All right, everyone, we're coming to the end of today's episode.
Today we talked about how to train your ear to understand fast English.
And we shared several ideas to help you improve your listening.
Daily listening.
Repetition,
Slower speed at first.
real conversations.
And the shadowing technique.
But maybe the most important message today is this.
Be patient with yourself.
Learning to understand fast English takes time.
But if you practice a little every day, you will definitely improve.
Your ears will slowly adapt.
And one day you'll notice that conversations feel much easier.
We hope this episode helped you feel more confident about your listening journey.
And if you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to follow or subscribe to the channel.
Because here at Daily Cup English, we share new podcast episodes every day.
Each episode is designed to help you practice natural English in a relaxed way.
Just like having a friendly conversation over coffee.
Exactly.
You can listen while walking, cooking, working, or relaxing.
Just a few minutes a day can make a big difference.
And if you think this podcast might help someone else learning English,
Feel free to share it with your friends.
we'd really appreciate that.
All right, Liam, any final thoughts?
Just one.
Let's hear it.
Keep listening, keep practicing, and don't be afraid of fast English.
Because with time and practice,
It won't feel fast anymore.
exactly.
Thanks for spending time with us today, everyone.
We hope you enjoyed your daily cup of English.
And we'll see you again in the next episode.
See you tomorrow for another conversation.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.